Welcome back to the Creatives Do Business Well podcast, a space of co-creation for solo creative entrepreneurs just like you, craving that transition from being a struggling artist to a successful creator. Keisha here. I'm your host, your multi-passionate business sister, and photographer turned holistic brand and content strategist. I tie branding, content creation, systems, and scaling your business back to everyday life. And my goal is to help you not only run a business, but find that sweet balance between your passion and profits and doing business as a creator exceptionally well. Welcome back to the Creatives Do Business Well podcast. I'm your host, Keisha, and this is the second episode in our special bonus series, Go With The Flow, Then Get to Business. Let me start with asking you a question. When was the last time you felt pure joy while creating something for your business? If you had to think about it for more than a few seconds, then this episode is just for you. Today, we're getting into the Sacral Chakra, and this is an energy center in your lower belly, your womb, below your navel. The Sacral Chakra controls creativity, pleasure, passion, emotional flow. It's where all your creative energy lives. There's something creative entrepreneurs rarely talk about, the moment where the work that you once loved becomes work that you dread, you resent, you hate. That feeling you used to have when you used to sit down and create and be so excited and lose time with a project. Now you feel nothing. You even feel resentment sometimes. The passion that used to keep you going and wake you up every day, now it's just a to-do list and everything about your work feels heavy or numb. That disconnect from your creativity, it's a sign that your sacral chakra needs a little bit of attention and that the systems we navigate have disconnected us from our natural creative flow. I would get into these projects I used to be excited about and I felt nothing, just emptiness, where all this love and passion for my gift used to be. And the project, for the most part, checked all the boxes. Good clients, fair pay in some situations, and I talked about that in the previous episode in the root chakra. So if you can relate, go check that out. But it checked all the boxes. I had creative freedom, but as I was working through these projects, I would feel not even the littlest bit of excitement. So how did I get there? Coming from working with somebody and collaborating, losing track of time when I'm creating. Hours felt like minutes. I would forget to eat sometimes. I would stay up late because I couldn't stop working on this project that I love so much. Then something changed. Creating started to feel like robotic, like I was just on autopilot when I started to do it more and more for my business. Client work became something that I just needed to check off my to-do list. At first, I blamed outside forces. Maybe I needed a vacation. Maybe I needed different clients. Maybe I needed to change my offerings. No matter what changed, I still had this numbness. So the issue wasn't my business model or the clients or the workload. The issue was my specific relationship with creativity itself. And I talk more about this in episode 3, so make sure you check that out to get a little bit more backstory on what my relationship with creativity is now, and maybe you can explore what your relationship with creativity is. After years of overgiving to clients, ignoring my own creative needs, and treating my passion as just a new project that I had to complete and send out to the client, this drained my sacral chakra, the very source of my creative energy, the very source of my joy and my aliveness. I wasn't enjoying my business anymore. It literally broke my heart. And if I couldn't find my way back to joy, I knew I'd eventually burn out or quit altogether. For Black women, the right to create freely, to express joy, to make art just for art's sake, to pursue their passions without having to produce something useful for everybody, this has been denied throughout history. My great-grandmother, Ruby Mae Young, was a quilter. Her quilts had all of these very neat patterns and color combinations that still inspire me today, but she didn't call herself an artist or pursue quilting as a passion. Her creativity was necessary. Her creativity was a need. So during slavery, our creative expression was controlled or punished. After slavery, creating for pleasure instead of just survival wasn't really an option for most of us. Black women entrepreneurs are pushed towards certain types of business that are considered appropriate for them, while anything creative, anything they want to explore in the creativity realm, that receives less funding and less support. We're expected to be practical, to focus on service instead of self-expression, to put other people's needs first. There's also an expectation that our creative work should address trauma, struggle, politics. And while all of these things matter, don't get me wrong, we deserve the freedom though to create from joy as much as we create from pain. I'm not going back to a 9-to-5. That's just not right for me. This is where I feel I'm called. But the expression on their faces, especially my family, it's like, that's not responsible. You need to take care of your family. You need to go get a job. I used to take it personal, but I don't take it personal anymore. Behind that is generations of Black people, Black women who couldn't prioritize creativity. So if you feel numb when it comes to your gift, this is ancestral, the result of generations who had to suppress joy and creativity in order for them to survive. Our bodies carry this memory and our sacral chakras reflect this pattern. So what are the warning signs that your sacral chakra is being depleted? I'm going to walk you through a couple of those warning signs that I've seen in myself and other creatives. Number one, the joy is completely gone. Something that energized you or you felt good about at once, now it feels like a burden. You drag your feet with any of the tasks that you have to complete. Creating to you, you feel like a robot, you feel like a machine, and you catch yourself thinking about your business as just work. Warning sign number two, you're overgiving to clients. You say yes to revisions and last minute requests, even when it drains you. You resent these requests, but you can't say no for some reason. You find yourself doing more than you agreed to do just to keep the clients happy. Number three, you've stopped creating for yourself altogether. Think about the last time that you made something just for the fun of it. All of your creative energy now goes to client work or business content. Your personal creative projects don't exist. You don't get to any of those anymore. Warning sign number four, your messaging becomes generic. If you look at your recent social media posts, do they sound like you or do they sound like everybody else in your industry? You struggle to connect emotionally with your audience, use your stories. Your content feels safe, but it has no depth to it. It has no life to it. The next warning sign is that you're stuck in patterns. You create the same things in the same ways because they've worked for you before, and the thought of creating something new feels exhausting. Warning sign number six, you ignore your body. You work through lunch. You skip bathroom breaks. You forget to drink water. Simple things like that. Your physical needs come after you being productive. You push through fatigue instead of taking the rest that you need. You don't get up to move your body when you feel stagnant. Warning sign number seven, you avoid any kind of pleasure, anything for fun altogether. You don't enjoy things like music, food, movement, anything that might spark up this creative energy. Life is now all about getting things done. And the most telling sign is when somebody asks you what you love about your work, you have to think hard for an answer like I did at the beginning of this episode. The connection to your passion is gone. It does not exist anymore. So you need to get back to that. These warning signs typically show up after you've been in business for a while, maybe like 2 or 3 years with the same business model, doing the same thing. And sometimes they can show up after client work or big launches, or sometimes even the personal challenges that you're going through, especially now, this recession. I don't know, it's really weird. It's not being called a recession, but it very much feels like one, or just existing now after the pandemic and inflation is just like crazy. times where you get back to survival mode and you don't do things for joy anymore. So pay attention to that. This is what I want you to understand. When your sacral chakra is depleted, nothing external is going to fix that problem. You can switch business models, you can change your offerings, you can find new clients, but if you don't address the reason why your energy is depleting, this numbness is going to continue to follow you and you're not going to have this spark for your gift anymore. So what can you do if you recognize these patterns in yourself? How do you reclaim your creative fire? Number one, reconnect with your body. Your sacral chakra lives in your physical form. Before you try to force creativity, reconnect with yourself. You can try this. Place your hand on your womb or your lower belly for the guys and take 3 deep breaths and ask yourself, what does my body need right now? Maybe it needs rest. Maybe it needs you to move. Maybe it needs you to care for it a little bit more and give it some nourishment. Honor that need before you try to create. You might even need to set a timer to check in with your body throughout the workday. When that timer goes off, ask yourself, am I holding tension? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I need to move and act on it? Step 2, do things just for fun. Listen out a few things that bring you joy. We often forget what some of those things are, especially when we've been in this numbness phase for a while. So try to make a list of 20 things that have brought you creative joy in the past. And it can be small. Maybe it's the feel of a certain pen or paper when you pick it up and write, the sound of a certain song or a certain type of music while you work. I love painting the areas that I live in because of that satisfaction of these color combinations, and it kind of was a reminder to myself. So think of things like that and then circle the 3 that feel the most accessible to you right now. How can you incorporate those into your workday? Step 3, reclaim these ancestral creative practices. When I started researching these things from Africa and what our ancestors did way before slavery, in most of those African traditions and societies, creativity wasn't separate from what they did on a daily. It was a part of everything. So try to research the patterns, the way that they told their stories, the techniques. How did your ancestors approach creativity? Then what can you incorporate into your business? I started small by getting these little coffee table books, designs from Africa and even some other countries where most of my ancestors most likely came from. I created a small space in my living room. Sometimes I would have them by my desk with things that represented creativity, a piece of mud cloth, cowrie shells, a small African drum, things like that. What can you just put into your workspace to remind you of this joy and creativity and these practices that your ancestors had? Step 4, create before you consume. Most of us start our day by consuming emails, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the news, content by other people, and this trains our brain to respond instead of creating. So try this. For 1 week, spend 15 minutes creating before you check your messages or before you get on social media. And it doesn't have to be client work. It could just be journaling, sketching, any form of creative expression. Notice how this affects your creative energy throughout the day. I try my best to stay away from social media in the morning because it's just a habit. We just pick up these phones and we just start scrolling, consuming everybody else's content. Step 5, challenge the systems. Most of us will challenge ourselves before we challenge these systems. And when you feel pressure to create without joy, ask yourself, is this my desire or is this a demand from a system that values my output over my well-being? And you can try one thing you should do in your business that doesn't align with your creative joy. Maybe you have to post daily on social media. Maybe you have to offer services that you don't enjoy because they just sell well and help you pay your bills. Could you allow yourself to experiment with that? What would happen if you do that? Step 6, create sacred boundaries. For Black women especially, boundary setting can be one of the hardest things because we've been conditioned to be available, to be helpful, to be accommodating to everybody. body. But without boundaries, creativity cannot flourish. So try to look at one client interaction or a business practice that you've been doing that has consistently drained your creative energy, and now create a boundary that will protect that energy. And that might just be as simple as, I'm not going to check any emails before 4 p.m. I don't offer rush services anymore, regardless if you're going to make twice as much money by offering rush services. And step 7, practice pleasure as a business strategy. In this world that separates pleasure from productivity, choosing to prioritize joy is a revolutionary act. Before your next creative task, ask yourself, how could this be more enjoyable? Maybe you need some music. Maybe you need a change of environment, a different time of day, or a new approach to this thing, but make one small change that increases your pleasure in the process. For those of us whose ancestors had their creativity controlled or denied, you are getting justice for your ancestors and the people who came before you. When we create from pleasure instead of feeling obligated, we're breaking chains that have bound our lineage for generations. I'm noticing how client work is becoming enjoyable again. Doing the same thing for the most part. Not every single part of every client project, not every minute of the day, because that's not really realistic. That spark for my work has come back. I found myself looking forward to certain projects instead of dreading them all of the time. Clients are going to notice the difference. They'll see something fresh about your work without even knowing what has changed in the background. You'll start to get more engagement. You'll start to get more clients, more people inboxing you. Another big thing I did, I raised my rates, or stuck to my rates, because they were raised at one point and I had a price for it. But anytime anybody would reach out to me, I will always lower that price and give these community offers. Not because somebody told me to, because I reconnected with the value of my creativity. Clients were happy to pay these higher rates because they could feel the difference in working with somebody whose creative fire was lit. And most importantly, I stopped putting my life into these categories. Creating became the source of pleasure again, whether I was doing it for my clients or doing it for myself. Reclaim your creative joy. Not just having a better business, but a more integrated life where you mix this creativity and your business. And remember, you come from people who created beauty even in harsh conditions, people who sang while they worked, people who made art from whatever materials they could find, people who preserved cultural traditions against all the odds that were against them. Your right to create with joy is your inheritance from them. This week, I'm inviting you to take one small step towards reclaiming that creative joy. Notice where you feel numb in your business and choose just one thing we discussed today. Maybe you'll reconnect with your body. Maybe you'll create that joy inventory list. Maybe you'll research these ancestral creative practices. What you do doesn't matter as much as the intention behind it. If you're ready to go deeper, check the link in the show notes for the free Chakra Business Report Card. It helps you to identify exactly where your energy is blocked and give you personalized guidance. Next week, we're going to move on into the solar plexus chakra and talk about why you might be undercharging, overgiving, and undervaluing yourself in business, and how you're going to reclaim your personal power. Till then, remember, go with the flow, then get to business. I'll see you in the next episode. Happy creating. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love today's episode? Go ahead and show us some love and support by leaving a 5-star review. Catch up with me at Keishandra Creates or Creatives Do Business Well. We want to reach more creatives like you, so be sure to tell your creative business friends and family about us. Don't just talk about it, be about it, and get out there and cultivate your gift and create the sustainable business you deserve.